Now it's time to answer a question submitted by you. Today's question comes from Chris. Chris asks, my coworkers want to eat out constantly, but it's not in my budget. Help. Okay, Chris, this is something that I ran into. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know one of my early stories was how I didn't have a budget. And my first month or so, when I was out at my first job out of college, I ended up eating out a lot for lunch. And I ended up buying a whole lot of groceries that went bad because I didn't have a meal plan and I didn't have a budget. And I was also spending with a credit card. The combination of all these things meant that I was spending about double what my family consumes now. That aside, you say in your question that I don't have the eating out in the budget. I see this playing out with two scenarios. Scenario one, you have the discretionary money to go eat out if you wanted to, at least in part. And you're not assigning that money to eating out because you have another priority that is a want that you believe is more important than eating out with the coworkers. In that case, when you say no to coworkers and say, I can't eat out, well, you're saying it for the sake of the want that you have that is more important to you than eating out. And knowing that can help give you the power to say no. Now, if you don't have a priority that is more important to you and you really want to engage in that social aspect of going out and eating lunch, you are in a place financially where you can afford it, you have that discretionary income to do so, well, just put it in the budget. Have an eating outline item or even one that is lunch with office friends. Add that to your budget and give yourself a limit. You know roughly how often people are going to be wanting to go out for lunch, and you know how much you can afford to if you're writing a monthly budget. In that case, you're going to be giving yourself permission to say yes often and no once you've hit the limit for the month. Let's consider scenario number two. Scenario number two is you do not have discretionary income to be eating out. You have a priority that is so large and it's taking up all of your otherwise discretionary money. Say it's getting out of debt. You want to get out of debt. You know that needs to be your financial priority. And it's really hard to stay focused on getting out of debt when all your friends want to do at work, all your coworkers want to do is go out and eat and hang out. And you're like, this is expensive. This is going to add so much more to what I spend on food to feed myself. Well, you need to first recognize that eating out with the friends, eating out with your coworkers is not a need. Eating out is a want. You can take a brown paper sack lunch that you prepped at home and have an appropriate meal plan that costs a fraction of what it would eating out. You need to know that your plan to pay off debt or whatever your major priority is now, your need that exists now that is taking over the priority of eating out. You need to know that by accomplishing that, you're freeing yourself up to say yes a lot more later and say yes in a way that's not going to make you feel guilty. And there's room to do that without having to go out and break the bank or break your budget. I hope this answer helps you, Chris. And if this is something that you still continue to struggle with or you have more questions on this topic, please feel free to reach out to me. This is what I do as a financial coach. I help people understand their needs, their wants, their goals, and their priorities, help them to know when to say yes, help them know when to say no, and help them realize that saying no with a budget is not necessarily saying no, it's simply saying not yet. With that, it's time to move on to today's main topic.